There you go.
Oh,
Let me take all my notes off my screen so I can see everybody again. Okay, we'll go ahead and jump into this. If you've been here for a couple minutes, you know I've already said that we did 4 of these in person. And so this one we did on Zoom. This one will be recorded, and we will post this link as well. So to jump right into this, there are 2 Garys on this evening who are leading this. There's myself and there's Gary Strasser. I think you're vets as far as a gathering goes, but if not, there's typically in the past there were 2 roles. There was a Senate Day coordinator, which in the past couple of cycles was Diane Schweiger Alexander, and then there was a Senate Day director, and that was me, at least for Houston. And what they did is they combined those roles this time around, and there's just something called the Senate champion, and it's not me. So the Senate champion is the other Gary that you see on your screen. And so he's the official Senate champion. I'm the backup. And because I got to go to the extravaganza back in February and went to 3 sessions on the gathering, at this point, after 4 meetings, I think Gary and I are at the same place. But initially, I knew I had a few more insights because I had been to the extravaganza. So the only other thing I'll mention, if you see Gary 2 on there, that's just my other laptop. I'm just making sure things work and pop up right on the screen. So that's just my test. So if you see 3 Garys, don't worry about it. There's only 2 of us. With that in mind, Gary, why don't you introduce yourself and go ahead and start talking about the gathering and the slides they gave us.
All right, I'm Gary Strasser. I live in Ann, Ohio, about as far north as you can get in the Southern Ohio Synod. So that's who I am. I member of St. Jacob. I've been to 8 gatherings, go to New Orleans about every year. So that's pretty much me. I'll just welcome, and the youth gathering is July 16th to the 20th. Mile and table is the 13th to the 16th. And the 16th to the 20th is a Tuesday evening through a Saturday. And we'll go to the next slide.
And we've already introduced ourselves. Okay.
And we've introduced ourselves.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about the ministry goals, but everybody sees them on the screen.
I think they can probably catch on those.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to do, is anybody going to the mile or table?
Okay. I get the impression that nobody is. Okay, so you know those exist, and you know what those are. One is the multicultural, the other one is definitely abled. And so they happened, you saw just 3 days before the gathering. And so they exist. The next few slides here talks about those. We'll just kind of skip those because we don't need to talk about those. Looks like we will have some people going in our Senate. I will say this, if you do have a young person in your church who ends up wanting to attend that, let me know. You're going to hear this about 4 times tonight. I'm going to be the intersection for some things. So I'm helping the Mile people and the Dale people to connect so they can travel together and all those kind of things. So if you do have somebody going, and it might just be one person, let me know, and I'll help you connect with the others that are going. So, I'll know the theme.
Okay, yeah, the theme is created to be, and it's based on Psalm 139.
Mm-hmm. And then the key verse within the Psalm.
I praise you for who I am, fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know you very well.
Yeah.
Okay, the daily themes. Created to be brave. Show up with an open mind and heart, willing to be challenged. That's from Psalm 27. Created to be authentic. Bring your whole self and know that we are loved by our Creator. Matthew 5:14 through 16. Created to be free, to be transformed by the gospel. Galatians 5:13, 14. Created to be disruptive, to work for justice for all our siblings. Matthew 21:12. Created to be disciples, to be sent out into the world to love our neighbor. like we are loved by God. Matthew 22:36 through 40. And that's the daily themes.
Mhm. There's the pre-event,
Pre-events,
which
okay.
will kind of go. We'll jump down to the young adult gathering. That'd be the next one, Gary.
Young adult gathering. That's July 16th, ages 18 to 35. And they're invited every night to go to the mass gathering. They will have their own programming. They will be sitting in a section by themselves at every mass gathering. They will have their own hotel separate from the youth gathering. One important note on that one is no young adult can be registered as a young adult and be an adult leader at the same time. And during their programming, it's going to be based on age and experiences or needs. Go ahead and throw anything else in you might have, Gary.
Yeah, and just interest. So I know when I was out at the extravaganza, when they popped up this slide and it said ages 18 to 35, everybody was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And people were picturing 19-year-olds hanging out with 34-year-olds all for the whole time. And they told us that there's going to be, the word may be age appropriate, it's not quite right, but they're going to have some age-based things and some interest-based things. And so they're not all going to be doing the same thing all together all the time. The question that did come up, which I'm not sure if they've have a full answer yet from the gathering headquarters, and that is if and how much time they could spend with your church. If you know, they can certainly travel with you, and they will not be in the same hotel as you, but we got the impression that they may have the opportunity to catch some meals with you. And there may be another time or two they may be able to pop into what you're doing. I think they're still kind of tweaking and putting that together a little bit, but they're not going to be in your hotel, and they're not going to be with you at the mass gathering. And mostly they're doing their own programming. So I think you get the gist of that. Any questions about the young adult gathering that you'd like to ask? If we can't answer, I'll make a list of things. Okay.
What's the cost on that, Gary?
Okay, we'll get to the costs. That's a good question. That's coming up. We have a slide with the costs on it.
Okay.
Go ahead. We'll go to the who can attend, Gary.
Who can attend the gathering? Youth that are in 8th grade through the 12th grade at the time of registration in the fall. Adult leaders must be 21 by the time of the gathering.
Yeah. Yep. And we'll
Gathering
we'll spend quite a bit of time on this slide because we want to walk through all 5 of these things. So those of you who've gone before, you know this slide. I mean, you know how the structure goes. Tuesday night, there's a mass gathering. Then there's 3 full days, and you see what the days are at the top row here. Those are the 3 full days. We don't know the order of our days. And then you know the mass gatherings in the evening and community life afterward. And Gary will go ahead and start talking through each of these items.
Okay, Synod Day. This is one of the 3 program rotations, as Gary just mentioned. This is where the biggest change is that I've noticed. 45-minute worship service up to an hour with communion. Then you're going to be able to explore New Orleans or other event options. The time will be either at 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock at a hotel ballroom down there. So instead of the 3 hours that we've spent before, it's now just 45 minutes to an hour, just like a regular church service, basically. Any questions on Synod Day?
And so what I told the bishop was, and we're kind of hoping we have the 10 o'clock start time. We don't have a choice. If we have a 10 o'clock start time, we would do our Synod Day, which is basically just a worship service that's designed to be less than an hour. And it'll be in a ballroom. We'll all be in the same place. And then after that, you would have the rest of the time until the mass gathering in the evening, which starts at 7 o'clock, to do what you'd like to do. And they're going to have options for us. And you can do things, you can just be tourists if you want, and you will be given options of things you can go do and see. But there's going to be some other options as well. You don't have to do touristy things. There's other things you can do. So that's what we're hoping our day looks like. If we start at 2 o'clock for our worship time, I told the bishop, don't be surprised if once they get out there, some of them don't make it back by 2 o'clock for whatever reason. So I know if we start at 10, we'll probably have our whole Senate there. We know if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, who knows? I mean, between walking and traveling or trolleying or getting caught in a line someplace, we'll see. But so that's just kind of what that looks like. So we're not going to be doing the big, all of us in a room for 3.5 hours or whatever, like we did before. So go ahead and move to the next possible day, Gary.
Okay, it was service day, now it's accompaniment day. This is where you'll be assigned one of three areas: action, advocacy, or awareness. The day is centered around accompaniment and transformation through the stories and experiences that happen in New Orleans. And you will get to make a choice of what you would like to do when you register for your hotel during priority registration only. And that's pretty much what that one day is going to be like.
Yep. And that, yeah. So this is the old, as it says, formally service learning day. Your group's going to be doing one of these three things that you will get a chance to have a choice on. The only question that came up, which we're going to ask them, is if we're getting T-shirts that day, if we're going to do the orange T-shirt thing again, because I know, and we won't have to get into the whole T-shirt thing now, but the others were all kind of going, well, we want different colored T-shirts every day, so we want to know if they're going to give us an orange T-shirt or not. So we're going to be asking about the T-shirts because we want an answer about that sooner rather than later. Well, I guess you don't have to order T-shirts by September, but anyway, we're going to find that out. The other thing people asked about was we usually get a box lunch on that day. I do not think we're going to get a lunch. I think we're on our own for lunch, but I'm going to double check that. But I would say do not count on them giving us a box lunch, since we're not going out and serving like we've done in the past on that day as an entire group. So go ahead, Gary, talk about that third day.
Okay, interactive learning day. That's just the day of fun and learning experiences in the convention center, which is a 1 million square foot center. That's where you get to play volleyball, do basketball, learn about global giving. I can't remember everything else they may have there, but I know one time was how to use a wheelchair if you've never been in one and you had to go up a ramp and try to figure out how to do it. It's basically a lot of fun day and a lot of good experiences there.
Those of you who've been there before know what this is like. It's I'm going to use the word 80, and that's my number. That's not a number they gave us, but it's like an 80 ring circus. I mean, you will be in this 1 million square foot building, and there'll be concerts going on. There'll be bungee jumping going on. They'll probably be building a habitat house in there somewhere. They will probably have 5 basketball courts like they've had in the past, and street hockey stuff. I mean, it really is like an 80 ring circus. There's just, your young people will have plenty to do. There'll be water walks going on through this whole thing. It's just, yeah, it's quite an experience. And yeah, you probably have all experiences. If not, you just want your people to be there and get the full load of that. Gary, talk about the mass gathering, and then we'll go to community life.
Okay, the mass gathering is going to be every night, and except on Saturday, it'll be at 10 o'clock, I believe, on Saturday. And it's in the Superdome. That's where we're going to have music and speakers coming in. And that's basically the other worship time.
Yeah, it goes 7 to 9, and they've given us those and so there's 4 of those: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What was the other thing? Oh, one of the big changes, which you may have already heard about, and I'll preface it the way they did. So, they prefaced everything that involved a change, and so the way they prefaced it was their biggest health problem when they are at the gathering is groups lining up early to get into the mass gathering because they want to get on the floor. and their problems have been with young people dehydrated and getting faint, and it's hot and all that kind of stuff. So their way of attempting to fix that is, and to alleviate those who groaned when they found out our Senate wasn't going to be together at all, that we are going to be seated by Senate. And we're going to be in a different section every night, is what I understand. So what's going to happen is, I'm making up numbers, but like on Tuesday night, they're going to say, Southern Ohio Synod, you're in section 212. And so we will all be together for like seating for the gathering. That will move around each night. So I imagine some nights will be closer to the stage, some nights will be further away. I do not know if we will ever be actually on the floor or not, but that's a big change, which people have had different opinions about. Anyway, the bishop was happy that she at least gets someplace where her Senate's going to be together, since we're not going to do the 3-hour thing like we did in the past, like we did in Houston. So that's the gathering. The only other thing I'll mention, and we'll talk about food later, but so I don't forget, they said the concession stands will be open at the Superdome, and they'll close like right at 7 o'clock. And then they said there'll be food trucks outside. So that's just an FYI. We'll come back to food at another time, but I wanted to at least mention that about the gathering. Gary, community life. There wasn't much to share, but do you have anything you want to say about that?
Community life, they say they're going to do it, and it's going to be probably in 10 to 12 hotels from what I heard. And I don't know what the hours is going to be, if it's going to be like 9:30 to 11:30 or 11. I'm not exactly sure what the curfew time is for us down there either.
Yeah, and they'll give us the start time on those, whether it's 9:30 or 9:45 or 10 o'clock or whatever, and they'll tell us how long they go and what time they end and what is going to be in which hotels. They said 10 to 12 hotels will have community life afterwards. When we talked to people on Saturday, some of them kind of went, yeah, we kind of skip community life and we just kind of go back and we kind of end our day together and do our devotions, and because we're all so tired, especially when it gets to be later in the week. So that's up to you. So know that, I guess, if community life hasn't always been, this is an optional thing. You're done at 9 o'clock after the mass gathering. Community life is optional. And so, and they'll kick us out of the Superdome. So they'll move us along. Gary, I'm going to jump to the next slide unless you have anything else you want to mention.
I think we're good on these.
Okay, and you probably don't need a screenshot of this slide, but this might be one slide you might want to screenshot. Yeah, Matt.
Yeah. So after the service day, as it was called in the past, in Houston, we had that thing where we kind of came together and it was kind of a celebration. Is there anything like that during that accompaniment day? Sounded like the Synod day we would have more free time to just kind of do touristy things, but the accompaniment day, that we didn't really talk about. So is that going to be a full day service, or what's the
yeah, that's on the screen there. You can see the three things underneath there: advocacy, awareness, or action. When you register for your church, assuming you do this in priority registration, and we're coming up on that slide pretty soon. If you do that, if you do priority registration, which means you register between September 15th and November 1st, you get to choose which of these you do. So you will decide if you want your kids to do service, you pick action. If you want them to do more awareness, you do awareness. And awareness might be, and I'm only going on what we did in Houston. They haven't told us this yet, but I know when we were in Houston, we went to an awareness thing where we went to like a residential treatment facility and they just made us aware of young people in residential treatment. Or we went to a homeless shelter and they just kind of made us aware, did a homeless awareness session with us, whatever. So on that day, you'll get to pick which of these three things you want to do. And I get the impression that that would be what you do for the day. So if you pick advocacy, I don't think you'll be doing any hands-on service. That's the impression they gave us when we were at the extravaganza. Any other thoughts about any of that? Those are good questions. I did see a question in the chat I have not been opening it once in a while. Yeah, somebody asked why the worship service was only 45 minutes. They didn't tell us. They just told us you got 45 minutes. I don't know if we have to be out of the room at a certain time from the hotel's perspective. They just said you'll be in there. They said a 45-minute worship service, and we'll be moving on to our next thing. And then as far as sending, as far as sending out this, I can convert. We're going to give it a shot. I said earlier that I will get these slides to you somehow. I'm able to convert it to PowerPoint. Once we do that, sometimes it jumbles and we're not able to get the links all break. But you probably don't care too much about the links. You're probably more concerned about the slides. So as I said, we'll get it to you one way or the other. And if I give it out as Google Slides and it doesn't work for you, I'll make sure you get it as a PowerPoint or screenshots or whatever works. And so I think I've caught up with all of the stuff that was in the chat. Okay. I'm going to go to the next slide, Gary, see what's there.
All right.
We got to click on this first. There we go. This is the slide you want to pay attention to.
Yes. Registration.
Screenshot this if you want.
Its priority is September 15th to November 1st. It's $375, and it's a $150 deposit at the time of the registration. If you've got any young adults, it's $260 and $150 at registration. If you don't make priority and go regular, it
go ahead and tell them first, Gary, what are the benefits of priority? Go ahead and talk.
Benefits of priority are you get to basically kind of choose the section of town you want your hotel to be in. And you also get to choose your day of advocacy and the hotel price, low, medium, or high.
So I moved the screen down for just a moment so you can see this priority. Okay. So
that is your advantages right there. Those are the advantages.
So you'll get to pick where which area you would like your hotel to be in. Near the end of this, we'll show you a map. It's not the best map, but it'll give you kind of an idea of where these places are. But so you'll get to choose your location if you register before November 1st. I've talked to other churches, and all of them, when I say all of them, I'm talking about a handful of churches I talked to. They want to stay in the Superdome area. You can stay anywhere you want. I guess the big
the other big change
is our Synod is not together in one hotel. That's the big change with this. And so the bishop and I, our first thought was, we loved sitting in the lobby and just saying hi to our people all the time, every morning, every evening. In the afternoon, we'd hang out there and we just saw our people all the time. And so I don't want to say disappointed, but we'll miss that part of it. But you get to choose where you want to go. The 4 or 5 churches that indicated to me where they were going to go is they all said Superdome, and they all said because we anticipate our young people are going to be pretty tired by 9 o'clock at night. We don't want to walk very far. It's dark. Let's just get to our hotel. Maybe there's community life close by, maybe not, but that's what we're going to plan on doing. So that's not an endorsement. The Senate's not advocating that. That's just what I've heard thus far. And I guess this would be something to say, if you'd like to be in the same hotel with another church that you know well, or at least in the same area with another church you know well, or if you're traveling on a bus and you already know which 2, 3, 4, or 5 churches might be on your bus, you might, not that it's going to be a big deal, but you say maybe we just all want to all stay in the same area for the sake of that. That's up to you, but we just want to let you know there's going to be 4 areas you get to choose from, and then you get to pick what used to be the service learning day theme. You can do advocacy, action, or awareness. I believe they're going to give us more information about what those entail before registration. We still got 4 months before you have to register. And so you should get more information about that. And then you see the hotel price, low, medium, and high. At the other meetings, they asked me this question. So when I send in my questions on Wednesday, one of my questions is going to be, can you give us some price ranges on what low means? You know, and can you give us a price range of what high means? At least a ballpark, you know, because some folks are thinking, okay, well, we can spend about $220, whatever, a night. What is that? Is that low, medium, or high? And so I'm going to ask that question, and we'll see what they get back with us about. And then somebody said, you know, they're going to, and I know what they're going to say, but I know when my wife and I travel, when we see that the $42 motel, the first place she goes is bedbugs.com to make sure, you know. So sometimes the cheapest, yeah, I don't know. So anyway, so we're going to try to find out some of the information for you, but that's priority registration, and so that's an important slide. And that's an important thing for you to understand. Gary, I'm going to go back to the other.
Okay.
I'm going to go back 2 slides to this. If there was anything else
Okay.
you wanted to say about regular or, yeah.
Regular, everything basically stays the same, except it gets $50 higher for regular. And then if you're late, it gets $50 higher than the priority. So you'd be at $100 for a late registration. And I will also say, one of the reasons they chose New Orleans is because everything is basically within a mile walking radius there from the hotel, any of the hotels they have, to the Superdome or the convention center. So that's one of the reasons New Orleans is one of their favorite locations. It's easy to commute around, and there will be no transportation from point A to point B. I did read that just yesterday.
Yeah, it's not going to be like Houston, where they told us they were doing all the transportation because things were so spread out. Here they're doing none of the transportation. So we'll be doing that square mile walking in there. And I think somebody asked about young adult gathering. There's the prices for that. We're talking about registration. The other thing that was brought up, and I think, and somebody may know the answer to this because I think it's been out there. If you have young adults going, I'll say this again about young adults. I'm going to help connect young adults as well. You know, whether you're going to Mile or Dale or young adults, and if you have like one young adult from your church who wants to go, or if you have 2 or 3, I can help them to connect with other young adults in case they might want to travel. Well, they can travel with you. Okay. So if you're taking, no matter how your high schoolers travel, they can travel with you. But if they want to stay together in the same hotel, same rooms, whatever, maybe we could even, once we know who they are, maybe we can even do an event and put them together, or put a Zoom meeting just so they can say hi to each other, so they know who each other are, and you know they can you know, at least before they get there, have an idea of who they are, and maybe room together. The other thing I was going to say about that, because I think it's separate, and I want to confirm that because this is an important thing, is I think young adults need to register separately. I don't think when you sign up your youth group, whether it's Mile or Dale or the main gathering, if you've got young adults going, I think that's a separate registration site. So that's just kind of put a footnote in your mind on that, and we'll get that confirmed. Somebody asked this question, and the answer was no, they do not need an adult leader. So if you've got a 19-year-old that's going, you do not have to send an adult leader. Okay, so that's that. Anything else? And I probably should check the chat again. Anything else about, go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Gary, yeah, real quick. Sorry, rookie
No, go ahead.
gatherer or person here. So is there a threshold for the priority registration? For instance, if I all of a sudden, you know, October 24th, I'm registering, am I cut off from certain areas, or am I is there a threshold to priority registration, I guess?
Gary, I'm going to answer that, and if you've heard something different, you let me know. I want to say it's kind of first come, first serve.
Okay.
I mean, September 15th, not that you have to register on September 15th, but if you pick, I want a medium hotel, and I want action, and I want, you know, what, you know, in the Superdome area, if you register in September, you're more likely to get that than if you register October 24th.
Okay.
So I would put that. Now the others,
Yeah, the
'cause
sooner the better.
I've never registered a group before, so some of you can answer this better than I can. You can add people later, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Gary saying yes, Matt saying yes. Yeah, so the important thing is to get your church registered.
Okay.
And then if you have to add somebody, you can add somebody later.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's
That makes
what
sense.
mentioning.
Thanks.
I'm in the chat room, and Lori, help me understand, what do you mean by aren't all rooms the same as in the past? I don't know what that means. Because I talked to people when they were in Houston. Some of them had hotels that slept two, and some of them had hotels that had rooms that slept three or four or five, and some of them were allowed to put cots in, and some of them were not. So I know the hotel rooms have been different in the past, and I assume they might be different. Oh, you thought the price was always the same? I don't know. I think they didn't have three different rates.
No, there was not
before.
three before.
There were never three rates before. So yeah, you're right, Laura, about that. The price was always the same. I don't know why that's different this time.
Earlier,
we do know there's high-end hotels and there's medium hotels, and maybe some of the churches were looking for something cheaper. I don't know. But there will be three tiers, and that's why we want to again ask, give us those ranges. So go ahead, Matt. And
yeah, prior
I can't
years,
see everybody on my screen, so if I don't call on you, just say something because I can't see everybody. Go ahead, Matt.
In the past, they had that as an option, but then they did away with it for some of the other cities. Like I don't
the
think we had
tiered
that.
pricing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we had that for Detroit. I don't think we had it for Houston. I think it was just like Atlanta, maybe. I mean, that's going back a long way, but
well, they've done this so many
close.
times. I'm sure they've done different things over the years. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to close out the chat room again, and I'm going to bump us down off of registration. If something else comes to mind, feel free to interrupt us. And I'll click on the screen, Gary. Okay, let's go down priority. We talked about that. And here's a little bit about the housing, and here's the map if you want to get an idea. And Gary, the other Gary, is the expert. He's been to New Orleans like 22 times.
20 times.
So he knows the town, and not just tonight, but if at any point you would like to know what are some touristy things we can do, what are some restaurants you'd recommend, that kind of stuff. The other Gary, he knows this stuff because he's been there many times. Go ahead and talk about this slide, Gary, and as long with the map as well.
Okay, if you see the ST up here in the very top corner above Storyville, that's Canal Street. And that's like one of the main streets right through the middle of town. So you see where the Superdome is. We stayed on Canal Street when we were down there a couple times, and it takes maybe 20 minutes to walk to the Superdome, unless you get caught in a downpour of rain and you have to crawl up under some place to stay dry for 10 minutes. And then over here's the convention center right above on my iPad, right above Gary's head's convention center. Basically, if you can get down Canal Street, you can get any place that you need to go in New Orleans and any of those. And most of the streets will come out to one of the, like Canal Street or over towards the Superdome on Loyola Avenue, I believe, or Poydras. It's very easy to navigate in that area. And probably any one of them's probably 11 and 18's the farthest walk to anything on there.
So Gary, just because I don't remember, I was there in 2012, but I don't remember, about how long does it take to walk from the Superdome down to the convention center?
No more than 20 minutes. And that's if you're walking leisurely.
Okay. So that gives you an idea on this screen on this map of what the walking is going to be like. And then Gary and I are going to be just guessing here, but there were 4 possible housing areas. Obviously, the Superdome area is near the Superdome. The Convention Center area is near the Convention Center. Gary, the other two were what? One was called Downtown and one was called
Downtown.
French Quarter.
French Quarter.
Explain maybe where those might be on this map.
Well, the French Quarter is anything to the top of the screen above Canal Street. That would be French Quarter. The rest of it would be downtown.
Maybe give us some numbers, some purple numbers. The purple is a hotel. So what would be some of the numbers?
Okay, French Quarter would be 11, 18, 8, 35, 39, 19, 32.
Okay. So up around Storyville and just a little bit below that.
Yes. And then the uptown or the downtown will be everything over towards the Superdome, probably like 3, 22, 33, 31, 23, 12, 30, 38. That would be pretty much, maybe not even 38. 38 might be close enough to be called Superdome.
Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and bump the next slide.
Oh, G-Learn. That is the best thing they've ever done, because it's basically your handbook as in your old ones. This one is very easy to navigate. And it makes it like 15 minutes at the most, and on any one of the ones that we've had so far, and we've had 4 courses that Gary and I's had to go through. And this one, it'll have some videos, but it'll also just give you some major tips on how to do things. I'm really impressed with this part of it, and it's done very well.
Yeah, and so to just throw in a couple of other tidbits, as Gary said, the G learning, I'll say this: we're communicating to people 3 ways. Okay. 2 ways from our Synod are those of you who've signed up to that Google Doc spreadsheet. That's my email distribution list, and I'll send out emails specifically to those people who are signed up on that spreadsheet. Everything I send out in an email will also be posted on the Facebook page. And I should probably put that in the chat box, but I'll do that in a little bit. But it's basically ELCA, and there's a space, YG space, SOS space, youth leaders. And that is, you join that Facebook page, that has all of our information on it. Anything I've sent out in an email, I also post there. And so this is a good time to get connected with all this, because after this, because you're not behind, you're right on track with everything. And anything, because I've probably sent out 5 emails in the last 2 weeks. That's all in the posts on the Facebook page, and all you have to do is scroll down. They're easy to find, they're easy to understand. It's a piece of cake. So the Facebook page might be your go-to if you don't want to look at email or save emails or drag your emails over to some folder or something like that. They'll always be on that Facebook page. Back to January 18th, I think that was my first post, and there's only been about 10 since then. And so it's very easy, and 3 of those are sign up for the spreadsheet thing, so it's pretty easy to find. And so that's 2 of the ways. So those are 2 of the ways we're communicating with people. And the other one is just their G News. And so you want to connect with their G News, and their G News will connect you to the G Learning. Those links they've been in the emails. Those links have been on the Facebook page. If you don't have that link and you need it, you email me and I will get that to you. And so you want to be on that. And so once you get on the G News, they're going to connect you with this G Learning. And basically, the G Learning is, in a nutshell, it's the handbook online. And so, and what they've done, instead of giving you that 200-page hard copy, send in $10 thing for the handbook or download the whole thing, what they're doing is it's in bite-sized pieces by topic. So you'll get in there and they'll have a little, it's like a little lesson. They'll just say lesson 1, and it'll have like a couple of documents, maybe a video or 2, and you go through it in about less than 10 minutes. And then you go on to the second one, a couple of documents, maybe a little video, you move on to the third one, but you have them, so you can always go back. And so it's all there. You don't have to deal with the 200 whatever page handbook that we used to have, or it's just in bite-sized pieces, which I've liked it. I've liked it a lot. I've gone through everything that they've put out so far. And if you're just starting, they've done 4G learnings, so you're not far behind. You can blow through those pretty quickly. So if you're not connected, it's a good time to get connected. I wouldn't wait till July when there's like 12 or 13 of them or whatever. So anyway, I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to put up Gary. I'm going to put up some key dates that came.
Okay.
Up. And this is on the website, but here's some key dates. Another thing that's on the website, it's easy to find, but if you want to take a screenshot of this or whatever.
One of the key dates that we haven't, well, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing right now, according to their key dates. Then June 15th, volunteer applications open. That's for gathering volunteers, serving companions, local volunteers, pre-event volunteers. Then August 15th, gathering volunteer applications close. September 15th, priority registration opens. October 15th is the servant companion priority deadline. Financial assistance closes. November 1st, priority registration deadline. November 2nd, regular registration opens.
Yeah, so pretty self-explanatory. And then there's a second set of key dates. Might as well pop that up and see if there's anything there that's
January
important.
15th, if you did your priority registration, and this is the only way you'll know where your hotel is, and the servant companion applications close. Then the 17th to the 24th is or 21st is the extravaganza. And I think I'm down there 2 or 3 days before that. So if I can find out what some of the hotels are and I have time, I will try to go out and find some restaurants in the hotel areas that we want to stay in. February 14th, regular registration closes. Late registration begins the 15th and ends the 15th of April. April 30th, your final balance is due, and that includes the rest of your registration and the hotel cost. May 15th, all the final details are released, and then it begins July 13th.
Okay.
Through the 20th, if you have any of those that are going in the 13th through the 16th. Otherwise, it'll be 16th to the 20th of July.
Yeah, and the only other thing we'll mention, well, Gary and I put up a little extra PowerPoint thing here because we thought there were some slides that would be worth talking about that they didn't include, or that might be specific to us. One of the things we wanted to talk about was the extravaganza. Most of you know what the extravaganza is. It's when all the youth directors get together once a year, or at least they have anything from 500 to who knows how many each time. There'll be a large group there in New Orleans. And what will happen is we're just suggesting that it's January. It's the third weekend in January this time. So it's a little bit earlier, and it's in the town we're going to be in. And we just encourage churches to send someone. If you do priority registration, you will know your hotel. You will know, which of those, whether you're doing advocacy, awareness, or whatever. And that's just the time. I won't belabor it, but it's the time to check out your hotel. It's the time to check out how long does it take to walk from A to B, or wherever you're going on whatever day. It's the time to check out your restaurants. There will be, if you've not done this before, there will be churches in January that will make meal reservations at restaurants in January for that following July. And which brings us to a main topic of food. Okay. You really need to think through food. Okay. It's not like going on a youth trip and kind of go, oh, we'll just stop here. And, some of us will go to McDonald's and some of us will go to Burger King and some of us go, you almost have to, not say almost, and I'll let some of you talk because you do this with people, with young people. You got to plan your meals. Where are you going? Reservations, think it through. Other churches have said things like, they are going to have, they're going to get down there and go to the grocery store and buy their breakfast stuff and eat breakfast in their hotel rooms. There's others that are having Amazon or whoever deliver food right to their hotel that they can have for their breakfast or whatever. So they only have to think about lunches and dinners. But food's not something that's just haphazard. It's really something you have to think through. The nightmare I shared was last time I was in they told us this, don't count on fast food there. There just aren't a lot of fast food places. Gary can tell you where there's a McDonald's or two. We know there's a food court down in the mall by the convention center, but there's not a lot of fast food. And I know I didn't have any responsibilities other than Senate Day last time and whatever. So I went to eat at 2:30 in the afternoon because I thought there'd be nobody there. I went to an Arby's. I was in line an hour and a half. And I got up there and all they said was, all we have left is this and this. So food's a thing. Okay. Those of you who've gone before, speak up. Either confirm me or change me or share what you've done with your kids.
I can honestly tell you there's basically 2 fast food places in the French Quarter area on Canal Street. One of them is on Canal Street. Both of them are on Canal Street. One of them's McDonald's and the other one is Popeyes. Now, there are a lot of nice little restaurants throughout the area, but again, they are a little bit pricey. And when we get to budgeting, I'll kind of go over some of those. But one thing you could do, and I would really love to see us be able to do it somehow together, would be to go to the Court of Two Sisters and eat there one day. That's one of the most unique restaurants, just the way they serve people and everything else. And it's just a neatly laid out restaurant. And it's a lot of good food there. There's a lot of good restaurants there, and you can walk down Bourbon Street all the way to the end and make a left and go to a little restaurant called Port of Call. Very nice little restaurant. There's a couple up on Decatur Street. That's good. You can take the trolley and go to Uptown or up to Magazine Street and walk down Magazine Street. There's lots of restaurants on Magazine Street. There's just different places that you can go down there to eat, but you got to get out and find them and make reservations, because it's not going to be easy just walking into a restaurant and saying, I got a party of 6. You may be waiting an hour.
I was going to say that my youth group last time, we ate after the mass gathering, and that worked really well.
Okay.
Because everybody, we went to Brothers and walked in the door, which I think it's Brothers, right? Is that right, Gary? Is that the Podog place on? I think on Poydras.
I'm not sure if that's the right name or not. They may have changed names. Some of them changed names, basically the same food.
Okay. But anyhow, that place normally had like a 2-hour wait, and we walked in. So, and be on the early side of getting out of the gathering.
Right.
Be
on the early side.
Yep.
Were you there in 2012 when we had a thunderstorm?
Oh, yeah.
In 2012, right when it ended, there was a thunderstorm. We were all stuck there for an hour.
Yep. That's true.
And then most people just decided, I'm not waiting any longer. And they were just very wet by the time they got to their hotel.
Yeah.
I just thought of a question I have to ask the gathering. They did tell us the Superdome concession stands will be open. I need to find out what time the Superdome opens. So I'll find that question out for you. They did say there would also be food trucks outside the Superdome. And I want to find out if those are just, right before the mass gatherings or when those are going to be there. So
when we were there before, that's kind of you go down the steps, the Superdome's kind of off to the right, and the steps go down into this area, and the food trucks were down in there, and that was a free-for-all. It was pretty crazy.
Was it?
At least that was my experience. we might have been down there for 2 hours or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And I also will tell you, there's subways throughout down in there. Just got to watch where they're at. But a lot of restaurants down there are pretty easy to walk into if you get there at the right times. And one thing you need to probably have all your kids experience is either Cafe du Monde or Cafe Beignet. Just have the beignets for them one day for breakfast or a mid-afternoon snack even.
And Gary, go ahead and talk about budgeting.
All right, budgeting. If you do the early priority registration, which I'm hoping everybody's going to do, it's $375. We already know that one. I'm going to say, and I'm getting this budget from the First Lutheran Church in Philadelphia, and they're going to fly to the gathering. The hotels, they had $190. I'm going to say they're going to be at least $200, maybe a little more. If you don't eat breakfast in your hotel rooms and go out every morning, they said 15. I'm going to tell you it's probably going to be $20 with the tip, just because that's kind of the price down there. My wife and I ate out when we were down there the first weekend of Mardi Gras, and we averaged $35 for the two of us at breakfast with a tip. So $20 is probably a pretty good average. Luncheon tips, they were saying $20. I'm going to tell you it's probably going to be $25. And for dinner, I'm going to tell you it's probably going to be $30, just because everybody raises the prices in the evening. So I'm going to tell you need about $75 a day for food. Now you can cut that down if you go to CVS or Walgreens down there, and there's a lot of those down there. And you can walk in and get cereal, milk, orange juice, granola bars, snack bars, breakfast bars. And the first time we were down there, or the second time we were down there, where we stayed, we walked every morning and got orange juice, and once in a while we'd get donuts because they'd have fresh donuts brought into that Walgreens when we got there. And we had the milk, and we had cereal, and we had fruit for them. And there is a couple, 3 groceries down in that area. And there's one near the convention center that I didn't even know was there. It's called Whole Foods. Souvenirs, I'm going to say anywhere from $50 to $100 for the kids to go. And there's places, lots of little stores you can walk in and get all kinds of souvenirs down there. But they've gone up tremendously over the last couple years. Airfare, I'm going to tell you, figure $450 to $550. So I use $500 as a guess. And if you're really good, you tell your kids to get everything in a carry-on bag. Or if that means one girl brings all the hair stuff for everybody to use, and they all put their extra shoes in one bag, and one of them carries some of the other person's clothes if they know they're going to room together. That's one way to eliminate any luggage charges. Transportation to and from the airport, figure $20 to $25 each way. Now, there is probably some cheaper ways in, but I've always found out it's much easier to take hotels or the hotel cabs or the vans that'll hold more people. And then obviously t-shirts and sightseeing. We know we're going to have a gathering t-shirt, but they'll probably want to buy another t-shirt just for themselves. And then sightseeing, they got $25. They came out with a total of around $1,500. I'm going to tell you it's probably going to be $1,600 to $1,700. And that's maybe on the low side, but I think you can probably get away with $1,600 to $1,700. Any questions on anything there?
I had something. I did something last time that we did this. We went to Rouse's, which is a grocery store near the Superdome, and got breakfast supplies. The kids got their own. So like we just went through the grocery store and got whatever they wanted for breakfast. So we did breakfast in our rooms. I will say that some of the refrigeration in the rooms is not your typical refrigerator. It's more like a cooler than it is
Right.
a refrigerator. And so if you've got a half-gallon of milk that you're trying to make last through the whole weekend, you may have to supplement it with ice, and that's just a tremendous mess. So you have to kind of figure that out.
That's a good point. Very good point on that one.
Back to food a little bit. I know Laura chimed in with House of Blues was a good restaurant to consider, and Port of Call was a good restaurant. And these are all in the chat if you want to look at it. And
Okay, Crescent
Bubba
City
Ball.
Brew House on Decatur is a real good restaurant. It was an old firehouse converted into a restaurant. And that's kind of a neat little place to go too.
Mhm. And if you didn't notice, Pastor Tom had to bump off. He had to go pick up his son at baseball. So terminology wise, I think if you got any of the emails or been reading the Facebook page, they have some terminology they'd like us to use. The bottom line is they're trying to get us to stop saying national, which they actually started trying to get us to stop saying it back in New Orleans in 2012. But it's still kind of in our vocabulary. So are you able to still see my screen? Yep. Okay, very good. Because yeah, okay, all right, I'm glad you can see. All right, so there's the terminology that they're using. That's just a quick mention of that. Let me get it. There's only a couple more slides here, maybe three. Senate Day t-shirt. We typically have a Senate Day t-shirt. We're going to do a Senate Day t-shirt again. It's $15. This is optional. Okay, so you do not need to do a Senate Day t-shirt. This would be what it's the t-shirt you would wear on Senate Day. And then once I get confirmation about the former service learning day to see if they're going to give us those orange shirts again, I will let you know what the colors are and such. So if most churches, if you're kind of new to this, I shouldn't say most churches, a lot of churches just get their young people a t-shirt for every day. So one, so they can help find them in a crowd of people. And two, it eliminates all the potential inappropriate t-shirts kids might wear. So it's nice to control the wardrobe a little bit. So anyway, the t-shirt, the details, basically, if you're new to this, this will be the fourth time I think we've done this. The details will come out in the fall. You'll be able to see the t-shirt in the fall, beginning like first business day of 2024. We'll start taking orders. We'll take orders until about March 31st. And we'll place the order first week of April. We'll get the t-shirts usually within a couple of weeks. And then we'll deliver t-shirts pretty much in May and June to get them to people. Our Senate Assembly in 2024 is in person. So, you or your pastor could probably pick up t-shirts at Assembly. Either way, it's our responsibility to get the t-shirts to you. So anyway, that's the deal with Senate Day t-shirts. Transportation, this is the other place on the intersection of. If you need to fill a bus, let me know and I'll help you fill it. If you want to jump in on someone else's bus, let me know. I'll let you know who is doing a bus. If you want to caravan together with somebody, if you want to fly together with another group, I can help coordinate that. From a bus perspective, there are, I believe, three buses at this point that are going. Prince of Peace Loveland has a bus that they're going to be looking to fill. And once they figure out how many of their people are going. And then Epiphany Centerville is going to get a bus. And so they'll have spots to fill. And then Matt, I got the impression you and Allie and Noel are going to do a bus. Okay. And so you'll probably have some spots open, don't know, but anyway, that's another contact. So if you want to get connected with somebody, and then there's a fourth church who says we're probably going to get a bus, but we don't know yet. So if you'd like to jump in with them, let me know. I'm already connecting those people. So if you'd like to jump in on a bus with somebody, it's one of those things where I wouldn't wait. I'd contact me so I can give you their contact information so you can get on there on their list. Next thing, ratios. They didn't have a slide on that, so we thought we'd put it up here. Not a whole, I mean, it's pretty, you've done this with kids before. If you have 2 to 6 youth, 2 to 3 adults, and you can just, I won't read it all. You can just look and see about what number you think you might be taking. And this is their recommendation. The only thing.
And
go ahead, Gary.
One of the things you need to make sure on that is if you're taking 2 girls and 1 boy, that you have 1 female and 1 male to go with it.
Yeah, and the gathering is, they are okay if you register with another church, and if you travel with another church. Well, travel doesn't matter, but if you register with another church and you end up in the same hotel, and there may be 2 or 3 churches kind of going together, but you'd have to register as one of your churches, and you would have one primary leader. But that might help you with, hey, we don't have an adult male and your church does. Let's register together and let's kind of work this out together. That's all up to you on your own. But I'll put it this way: the gathering does not frown on that. They're like, yeah, do it. If that works for you, do that. So yeah, let me go to the next.
And one of the things then they said about adult leaders was to make sure that if you're the primary leader, that you choose people that your youth relate to and respect. They need to be positive and accept last minute changes, able to handle the heat and humidity in New Orleans. They need to set positive examples and be able to go on 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night and not become a negative Nancy or a grumpy old grouchy man like me necessarily might become. And then dealing now with teens is more of a real challenge than it's ever been due to the world changes. That's basically what they're wanting you to know, that's their inside information on how you should kind of pick to help you, so you have less problems with your youth.
And so there's our contact information. If you're going to contact us, we're going to do this by email at first. And since we have time, we're not under any kind of crunch or anything, so we'll do email for now. Gary, the other Gary, is Strasser. He is the main person, so I would email him and CC me. And we just thought this time around it'd be nice to have a backup person, that backup person being me, so that for some reason it ends up in a junk folder, or if the other Gary's out of town for a week or 2 in the summer or doing vacation or something, or who knows what, that your message will get to you. And so that's our contact information. And I think, Gary, unless you have anything else, that's pretty much it. But feel free.
I was going to say that's pretty much it, unless they've got questions for us tonight.
Yeah, is there any questions? Laura, I know you've gone several times. If you have any, this is also a time for words of wisdom. Those of you who've gone before, is there anything you'd like to share that I think I've done all the slides.
Gary, I have a question. Is there going to be a teacher?
You're kind of breaking up, Matt. I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Is there going to be an Ohio t-shirt?
That's a good question. I've never initiated that. That's something that typically came from the Northeast Synod. And I could, let me try to find out who the Northeast Synod person is, because I've talked to a couple of churches up there, and they haven't heard anything about the gathering yet from their synod. So I don't know if they don't have a person yet or what they're doing, but I guess the answer is I don't know. But I'd like to ask. That's a good question, because in the past, I found out about the Ohio t-shirt rather close to the time we were leaving for the gathering. And it was a little late for us to kind of participate. So do you have a preference? Was that a good thing, bad thing, care, don't care? It was a go for you?
It was good. It just don't pick dark colors.
Okay. Did they do that once?
Yeah, it was a dark maroon about killed us all.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
Color wise, what we're doing is if they give us that one t-shirt, the orange one, like we normally get, as soon as I find out what that color is, I'm going to let Lisa know. Lisa Brooks, All Saints Worthington, is doing our t-shirt. And as soon as I know that color, if there's a shirt, I'm going to let her know. And I told Lisa, I don't care so much about the design, but I'm going to want to know the color sooner rather than later so I can pass it on to people. So you'll know there's at least two colors you probably don't want to use because they will, because you're already going to get one with that if you just choose to do the Senate Day shirt. Anything else? We're open to
You
your
might want to
ideas.
mention branding. Gary, you might want to mention branding.
Yeah, I sent this out in one of the emails, and let's see, is it around? Is it around? Did I close it out? Let me get back to my. They have a whole thing on branding, and it's here it is.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a whole thing on branding here. I'm not going to go through all this, but just so you know, maybe I'll take you to the website so you can find it. All you do is go to the home page and it gets to resources. You click on resources, you get to this branding document. But they have all kind of information, the overview, the theme, and they kind of have the theme verse. They're using the NRSV version, and that's the official logo right there. You don't have to pay too much attention to this. Then they give you all this, what the logo is not supposed to look like. Then they kind of have what the logo could look like if you were doing t-shirts, if you're doing promotions, if you were doing whatever you might want to do. There's two color, there's full color, there's one color, there's reverse, there's grayscale. They have this all for you, and you can download all this. So the icons, the color palette, and yeah, so the fonts and everything. So there's a bunch in there. What if you're using Instagram or TikTok or blogs, or they give you the stuff that can go with it. So that's worth noting. It's easy to find on the website, but there's a whole thing on, it's called branding. There's a whole thing on the young adults and whatever. So you kind of get that. Let me go to get rid of this. What happens if I go here? And just for fun, now that I can't see myself, I can't get to my browser because it's being blocked by everything. We're wrapping up here, so we're basically done, but I thought I'd see if this will come up. I don't want the announcement. Give me something else. And of course, it's not going to come up. And all it's going to give me is that. Okay, there's resources. That'll get us close. No, it won't. Okay. Well, I had it in my saved. It's not at the moment. Ah, bingo. This is the home page. It's elca.church.org. And so this is what it looks like under about, it's what is the gathering, all this kind of stuff, mission goals, where is the gathering, promotional materials, brand guidelines is under about. So that all that information is there. If you go to attend, congregations, volunteers, partners, bishops and guests, getting to know New Orleans, the schedule, the key dates, basically everything we showed you is on this page. There's nothing new. And then there's some basic facts, frequently asked questions about the different events, how much does it cost, how do I volunteer, you can see all that. And then the resources, They have the branding materials again, which you can download, and the G-Learn and whatever. And if you're on just that basic home page, if the bottom of the home page there's a thing for G News, you can sign up for G News there. So anyway, and that was elca.church.org. That's where I went. So anything else anybody want to? Actually, I'm sorry, it was elca.church/gathering is what it is. It's backslash, that makes more sense. So yeah. Any other thoughts?
And I will tell you, I will be down there for Synod Day, obviously. And anybody, if we happen to get the 10 o'clock, anybody that doesn't want to pay anything, and I'm sure that some of you that've been down there can probably go do some of the same things I was going to do. I was just going to take some groups to like Jackson Square, let them go into St. Louis Cathedral, or you can go the River Walk, or you can do a cemetery tour, or if you want to, you can get on the trolley and go all the way up and ride it all the way back down to the end of Canal Street where it starts and stops. You can go to Preservation Hall. You could also take the ferry across to Algiers and walk out to Algiers Point and see the ocean there and just kind of take a little tour of Algiers, the older section. And Algiers was formed when all the rich people of New Orleans wanted to move away from the not so rich people that lived in New Orleans, and they built like shotgun homes and stuff like that that your kids would probably never see around here. That's always something that's kind of neat to go do too. But I will be able to show some tours down there too if you're interested in that. So just kind of keep me in mind for that too. And you that's been down there several times should probably be able to do some of those same things. Other than that, thanks for coming. If you have no other questions.
Sounds good. All right, I will end this with prayer and we will be officially done. Yeah, feel free to sign off if you need to. Lord God, we just thank you for another time of getting information out to folks. Lord, we thank you for the gathering team who has done a really good job of giving us the basics and getting us started on this venture. Lord, we pray that as they are getting pummeled with a gazillion questions, Lord, that you would help them to think through things and get those answers to us so we can pass them on so we can have a really great experience in a couple of Julys. Lord, I pray for these folks who are looking to recruit people and fundraise and a lot of decisions that have to be made. Give them the wisdom and guidance they need as they go forth and put this together for their young people. Lord, we know this has been a dynamic experience for so many people in the past, and we would like it to be again. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. And all righty. I am